Okay, so the last couple weeks on Twitter, Larry Swayze, aka Crazy Kirby 4 on Magic Online, has been posting a bunch of photos of him wrecking people with this Jeskai Geist deck. And it's kind of interesting because like the list he keeps posting just look like they're from a year ago, um, and he's just killing people with them every single time he posts a picture. And it's literally every single daily he plays because I talked to him. So I figured I'd give it a try and see if it's just a case of a player having played a deck so much that they understand everything about it and just outplay everyone on Magic Online, or if it's a case of the deck is actually just really good and people are like trying new things and failing horribly at them. So if you take a look at it, uh, uh, superficially, it's kind of the same game plan as the Blue Red Delver decks. Heavy burn and some beatdown guys. But your creatures are all a little bulkier threats, I guess, is the best way to put it. Like Geist and Resto Angel are both a lot harder to kill than Young Pyromancer and Delver. And Geist and Young Pyro have like a similar damage output. So you're basically paying a little more mana for a little more resilience, which, if you're going to be playing a bunch of mirrors, is excellent. Because the mirrors have like a very set removal sizing, and a lot of these creatures are very good against that size of like Fork Bolt, Lightning Bolt removal. A bunch of remands as tempo spells against the mid range decks that have been creeping up in the metagame presence. Pass to handle a lot of things that the Delver deck can't, and you'll notice there's 0 Delver, 0 cantrips in this deck, and 0 dig through time or 0 treasure creatures, which has me a little skeptical. But I spoke with Larry about it, and basically his logic is that he'd much rather Snapcaster and Moorland Haunt, and you can't really do that with the Delve spells. He thinks that these are just better incentives. And the other part of it is that Dig is a fairly expensive spell, and it was always just getting him 2 Lightning Bolts, or 2 Lightning Bolt effects, which isn't really super unique. Whereas the other high drops he gets to play by cutting Dig, like the Resto Angels, the Thundermaw, and Batterskull, actually give him unique effects that allow him to win games that he otherwise couldn't. So it's at least reasonable. Deck is fairly land heavy as a result of not playing cantrips, but you do have a lot of lands that do work for you, and specifically Colonnade, which lets you use all these lands to add value. Like, if you're cutting lands because you're cantripping, it's great because you don't draw lands later on. But this card very specifically means that you have an incentive to draw a bunch of lands, and your extra lands work for you because they're 4/4 flyers. So it kind of helps on, I don't want to say both fronts, because it's kind of like you're creating a problem to play it, but it solves its own problem, is the best way to put it, maybe. Moving to the sideboard, you'll notice a lot of the hate presence in the form of creatures so that you can keep up the main deck aggression against the decks you want these against. Firewalker is obviously your hate card against Burn, and also against Delver, which is, it's basically impossible for them to kill. And then Mind Sensor for Pod and Scape Shift in all those kind of decks. We have our generic spot removal to short various matchups. Sprays versus Pod, Wear Tears versus Affinity decks. Purge just as like a sort of catch-all against a lot of things like Burn, or I'm trying to think what the other things that you want to purge. There's just like a lot of random stuff that you want to Celestial Purge in this format, to be honest. And then we have our control package. So 2 Counter Flux. Again, also versus combo. This card's great, but it lets you go bigger in matchups where you need to. Kyranos as your unkillable endgame threat, and Arath, so that you have some sort of sweeper in that vein, which this kind of plan makes me want to have Dig, like just bigger effects, but again, I'm going to play it as he sent it to me, as he's been winning with, and see how it goes.